Hey everyone, Leo with Dreaming Tree, and welcome to the assembly video for our Little Pumpkin treat box. I have all of my pieces cut out, as should you, and I have them in front of me here. It's actually, it's two files. One for the main structure, the black base, and then of course we have our pumpkin face and the stem, which doubles as a little handle so that you can easily open this little treat box. Now, as you can see here, I have the main part of it already cut out and pre-folded. Your download comes with optional solid score lines, which are very helpful. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to begin, because I really like to put these pieces on pieces like this while this thing is still flat. It makes it a lot easier. But before we do that, I do want to spend some time inking this because I want to add a little bit of interest and dimension to it. So I have my little felt applicator. I'm using, these are dye-based inks by Memento. Sometimes I use chalk, but in this case, dye fits the bill. And this is kind of a reddish orange. I tried orange on this and I just wasn't happy with the color it was giving me along the edges. So this red orange, I think works to my liking. So all I'm going to do here is just take and dab the ink with my applicator and just work the perimeter. If you've never inked before, I'd suggest trying it. It really is fun and adds a lot to the end product. It just makes it a lot more interesting, and most of the time it makes everything feel a little bit more polished and seamless and cohesive, I guess you could say. So we'll just go around the perimeter here. And if you want to be ambitious, you could try inking the interior cuts as well. I find sometimes that when you don't have a lot of room to get the applicator in there, it doesn't always turn out as well as I hope anyway. I like to have a specific sort of feel and look that I like to achieve when I'm inking, and that look and feel is one of subtlety, and I guess it depends on the type of project I'm working on, but when I'm inking, I don't like those hard lines. I don't like that hard definition. I like everything to be sort of gradient-like, where it just slowly fades into the next color instead of having that stark contrast between the two. But again, that's all just personal preference. You can do it however you want. Okay, so for the sake of time here, I'm not going to ink the other side, but you get the idea here. And we also want to ink the stem. The bottom part here, where the score mark is, will actually not be visible. So you don't really need to ink that. So don't waste your time and resources inking things that will not be visible. And I'll show you why it won't be visible here in just a moment, but let's first get it inked. And I'm going to ink both sides here. So what we're going to do is take this stem, the two pieces, sandwich them together, and that's going to act as our little handle to open our treat box. And this is going to be perfect for a child, a grandchild, niece, nephew, whoever it is, especially if they're having a little Halloween party at school. Great for little gifts for your coworkers or family or friends. Okay, so the reason I'm kind of putting this together without gluing it is because I just want to make sure that when I apply my little face, that I'm putting it on the right way. This is the lid that's going to open up, so we want to make sure that we keep them right side up and not upside down or sideways. Okay, so it's going to go like this. Just remember the side here with the smaller little flaps that we're actually not going to glue, this is the reference for the top. Okay, so we can put this down flat. And again, remember, this is our top. So I'm going to flip this over. Oh, by the way, as I mentioned here, the cool thing about this applicator is that it's flexible. So you can in fact, in this instance, the eyes are pretty easy. Just these parts of the eyes are pretty easy to ink. So I may as well get them a little, give them a little ink there. And because I can pull this out of the way, I can actually ink even more of this. I can get a little bit on the mouth and the teeth. And I really do think that doing this, especially with this beautiful red orange, this is called Ladybug. That's the specific color. Really just takes this thing over the top. And if you can't use this swiping motion that I typically use, especially on Halloween projects, I have no problem just kind of brushing it on like this. That works too. And it all depends on what type of color you're putting on, it depends on the color that you're putting on the cardstock. Okay, this isn't such a stark contrast, so if you kind of rub it on there, you're not really going to see any little imperfections, especially because the paper it's got a little texture, it's got a bunch of textures in it, a lot of different colors and such within it. It's not just a solid orange. There's probably maybe 10 different shades of orange in there, so that lends itself to kind of going a little bit crazier with the ink if you want. So we're going to flip this over, and as I mentioned, applying panels like this while the project is flat will allow you to, well, get a better outcome for multiple reasons. Primarily, you have more accuracy when you put this down, and you're less likely to warp or crease or bend the paper. Okay, so when we put this down, we want to make sure that we maintain a nice even border all the way around. Okay, so you can still see some of that black. There we go, and you can see the difference between the one that's inked and the one that's not inked. It almost looks like it's a whole different color, but not quite. Okay, so that is the top of, or that's the front. We'll call that the front, and remember, this is the back. Again, just to save time, I'm not going to ink that one, but I do want to glue it down. So go ahead and get your glue going, and don't forget, less is more when you're working with glue. If it's dripping off your paper, you definitely have too much. I would say, depending on the conditions in your area, as far as humidity and temperature, you should start seeing that glue change color, meaning become kind of clear and drying, basically. Usually within about, I'd say at the most, 30 seconds, depending on how thick you put it on. Okay, so that's in place. We can now begin putting this together. And we're going to do that by first taking these triangles and gluing them to their neighbors. Okay, so let's do that. Let's start by applying glue to the first one. And I do like to spread that glue out all the way to the edge of the tab, just so that everything looks nice and seamless once we put it together. So we're going to tuck this tab behind the neighboring piece, lining those two lines up, and then press and hold. You can also put this down on your surface and press down from the inside as well to get some extra leverage. Okay, and if you apply the right amount of glue, it shouldn't take more than a few seconds, and you should be able to pretty quickly move on to gluing the next tab. That's another reason why spreading the glue out like this is very helpful. It thins it out, which allows more air to get to it, which means that it dries faster. Just don't forget to wipe your finger off in between sections here. Okay, and when you press this down, if you do get a little bit of glue that squirts out, just wipe it off as you go. You should be able to maintain a nice clean edge. Okay, there's nothing to do here. That's the tab that sits there to help the top stay on. We're going to apply glue to the next tab now. And glue that down. Spread that out to the very edge. I'm going to try to avoid getting edge on the neighboring wall there, just to keep this thing nice and blemish free. I guess another thing you could do, kind of fun thing to do with Halloween projects, especially if you're using black cardstock, if you do happen to get a little bit of glue that shoots out and it looks unsightly, you can always ink the edges with like a white ink on black cardstock for Halloween. I think looks really cool. Okay, so we've got those in place. We've got one more down here at the bottom. Okay, you can fold that over. Try to get your glue nozzle in there. If you can't, that's okay. Just throw a little extra glue in there. And then what I like to do is just keep a stash of little pieces of paper like this that I cut from old projects, and I can kind of use that as a little brush to paint and spread the glue around when I can't get my finger into tight spaces. Okay, so I've got the glue on that tab. I'm going to tuck it behind the neighboring wall, and press that down into place. Now, a lot of these, pretty much all these tips that I'm giving you right now come in helpful and handy when working on any project from our website. You'll notice that I do this sort of thing all the time, and that's how we get the beautiful results every time. Okay, so now we've got the main base of it put together. This is the lid. We don't need to put any glue on that yet. We have 4 tabs that we're going to apply glue to, and then we're going to close this thing up. We got to make sure we spread this out to the edges as well, and we've got 4 of them to work with here, so it's okay to add a little bit of extra glue when you need that extra time. Okay, we're going to spread that out, try to make sure we cover as much of that tab as possible. If we miss a few spots, it's okay, as long as the edges are nice and crisp. Okay, so now we're going to take and close this up, and I would focus on this tab here. Get that lined up as accurately as you can. We'll do that one first, then we'll go over here. You may need to just slightly nudge the walls in a little bit. When you get one side together, the other side should just kind of fall into place. As you can see, I'm rubbing my fingers along the very edge here, just to make sure that I don't have any blobs of glue sticking out. Okay, and then you can also take your finger and press down on those tabs from the inside in case they weren't making very good contact, which the whole tab probably wouldn't be making good contact, just the edges. And then take a look at your edges, make sure everything looks good. I'm pretty happy with mine. It turned out great. Let's test it and make sure it closes okay. And it does, look at that. And now let's just add our little stem. Before we add the stem, we do have this little black piece, and that black piece is going to go right on top to give it sort of the illusion of 3-dimension. Okay, so we'll flip this over, and I'm just going to do a few little dots of glue. With small pieces like this, you don't need to go crazy with the glue. And just pop that right on top. Make sure it's nice and flush with the very top of the orange part of the stem, and press and hold that down like that. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. Okay, had a little bit of glue seep out of there, just pulling it off with my fingernail, rubbing the rest off with my finger. Okay, so as I mentioned, we're going to now take these and apply glue to one side, but not below where the score mark is. This is going to come in handy in just a minute. We only want to apply glue to this section, like so. I'm going to spread that out nice and thin, wipe my finger off, and then put these together back to back. And you can flatten this out. There's no glue on this, so we can flatten it out, and that actually helps us make sure that everything is lined up correctly, so it looks nice and mirrored and seamless. Hold that down for just a moment. And what we're going to do is we're going to take and slide it through this little slit and spread these tabs out like so. Then we're going to glue them to the underside of the box. So throw a little bit of glue on that little section there and press it down up against the inside and hold. Shouldn't take more than a few seconds. And then we'll go over to the other side. Just a little bit of glue, and then fold that over like so. And there's our cute stem. The box is now complete, ready to fill with your treats. And one thing that you can do to put a little finishing touch on this is add a few little rhinestones right where the eyes are, like so. Okay. Now, if you get your rhinestones and they already have a sticky back, I would still glue it down, because I've had numerous occasions where I've just used the sticky back and guess what? It fell off. Okay, so I'm actually going to just put a dot of glue right in the center where I think is, well, the actual center of the eye. And you don't need a lot of glue for these to stick. I'd actually err on the side of caution and use less, because typically when you pop this in place and push it down, it does spread that glue out, and you'll probably get a little bit that bleeds out from around the rhinestone. And that's okay. Once it dries, it'll look like it's part of the rhinestone, but there you have it. Okay, so that's going to do it. So that's going to do it. Really cute, simple to mass produce. Kids, adults alike will love it. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please visit us on YouTube and hit that subscribe button. While you're there, hit the little bell so you get notifications anytime we release a new product, whether it be paid or free. And if you make this or anything from our newest Halloween bundle, I'd love to see it, and so would the rest of our community. So head over to your Facebook and do a search for Dreaming Tree Group, or you can type in this little URL that you see here at the bottom of your screen. So happy hauntings, and as always, I look forward to crafting with you again. Hey, thanks for crafting along with me. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, check out some of our other videos, and also please consider hitting that subscribe button. And don't forget to visit our site and check out our free SVG section, where we have over 140 free SVG files complete with assembly videos. I look forward to crafting with you soon.